You're on mute, John.
Now I'm starting to do what Knock does all the time. Welcome to episode number 22 of the Apostate Alliance. We are joined today by John Varghese of the CFIC, and he is a former Christian, and we will be talking about that directly. Want to real quick just run down some of our future guests here. So our first guest next month is going to be Rational Canadian Atheist. And we're taking a little departure, and we're going to be talking to someone who's been a lifelong non-believer, and talk about what that entails and his experiences with, being surrounded by a religious world and never having believed. On the 11th of October, we're going to talk to Haris Sultan, a former Muslim. On the 18th, we're going to talk to Onur Romano of the same organization that John belongs to, the CFIC. And the 25th, we will talk to Little Devil, Sophia, who is also an ex-Muslim. The Haris Sultan one and the Little Devil on the 25th is going to be pre-recorded and will show as a premiere. We won't be live on those 2 days because of where these folks live in the world. We need to get together with them at a different time than 11 a.m. Eastern.
And actually, John, what I've decided to do with premieres, because I don't like the premiere format, is I actually will run it as a live stream, but I'll just be in the background. I won't be interjecting. So that way, like the chat stays, because you know how in premieres the chat doesn't stay. So that's how I'm going to be doing it. But I mean, tomato, it doesn't really matter. Same gist.
Yeah. I mean, I can be there for that too, or if they can. If there's anything to say before and after. So just real quick, want to remind everybody that The Rage has started a new format on Wednesday nights. Wednesday night is open room night. You can come and be part of the stream and bring a topic with you. We can, Christians can come and challenge atheists if that's what you want to do. We'd really like it if Christians came and joined our live chats, because we like having those type of discussions. On the 3rd of October, I'm going to be Kevin Chaos's guest on his channel, and I will get a link to his channel in the video description. I also want to mention that in the video description, there's a link to a very important organization. Our last guest 2 weeks ago, Jimmy Bangash, has this wonderful organization. It's called Free Hearts, Free Minds. And what they do is Jimmy offers therapy sessions to people that have come out of Islam but are still stuck in Islamic countries, that maybe might be having trouble dealing with the issues of that type of thing. And right now I'm going to mention a few stories I got off Twitter, and we'll comment on it. And just remember, here at the Apostate Alliance, you can be free to not believe. And as always, you're joined today by 3 non-believers. Unfortunately, Faye was not able to make it today, but I'm sure she'll be back next week. There's one story that was already taken care of, but at some point last week, my friend Saf.com had tweeted out about an ex-Muslim in Africa that is having problems, and so They did a GoFundMe. They needed very little money. It was like around $60, but she needs to get a passport so she can get out of her bad situation. And that was the goal was reached within hours of posting this story. So I want to thank everybody for that, and I will post this in the video description. Go check it out and keep an eye out for future GoFundMes for this person, because we got it set that they have the passport now, but there may be future GoFundMes to help this person out as far as getting out of the country and all that. The other thing, and I don't know how much there is to say about this, but there's another tweet here that I'm going to post, and it's this young lady that posts a little video clip, and she's in the darkness, she's whispering, and she posts, "I'm hiding my identity for security reasons. Please, I don't want to be killed. Please keep reaching out for organizations. I'm whispering because I'm scared that my family might hear me." And when I read that, I mean, it hit me hard, because this is what so many people are going through in Muslim countries, that are now no longer religious, and they're afraid for their lives because of what they can be killed, they could be imprisoned, be shunned by their family. And I mean, it could be the government could kill them because it might be against the law, but if the government doesn't go after them, just the people around them will go after them and do an honor killing. I mean, do you have any comment on that, John?
So hey, first of all, hi guys. Being in a country like Canada with its almost atheistic government policies and secularism at its very best, I just can't even imagine the struggle that a person like that who's hiding and sending out messages in the dark. I can't even imagine that. So it is, you know what, John, right from the beginning, I told you I don't even deserve to be on the show, because I haven't gone through all the peril and the danger that most of your guests go through. I find myself in a privileged corner of the world, but at the same time, it's not that we do not recognize it, and it's people like us who have to come up and become at least an echo for those, and an amplified echo of those kind of voices. And that's why I am with CFIC, the Center for Inquiry in Canada, which takes voices like these and at least within our as much as we can reach, spread the word out. So hopefully her voice gets louder.
Doc?
Yeah, well, I would agree. I think that we really need to amplify our voices, and yes, we need to be focused on what's going on here at home in America. It's a very crucial, critical time for us right now, but we can't forget the atrocities that's going on across the world. And we really need to start screaming at the top of our lungs for our government to stop backing theocracies that are going to allow these atrocities to happen. We need to put economic and political pressure on these countries to force change. And we don't do that when we're giving them Saudi Arabia $180 billion weapons deals and allowing them to force an embargo on Yemen. So yeah, I totally agree that we need to be those voices. And here in the States especially, every time you speak out against Islam or the theocracies across the pond over there, you get this label of Islamophobia. And I think that Islamophobia is real, but it's getting overused, because we need to be hypercritical of Islam, especially these theocratical countries that allow these atrocities to occur.
Absolutely. There's another story in here, and this goes to another issue that's very important in Muslim countries. Free Soul, thank you for this tweet. He posts a video clip of, and believe it or not, it's a imam or some type of person in that religion. An Islamist preacher is what it says at the top of the story. UK Islamist preacher explains how people turn gay. Now, the horrible things that happen to members of the LGBT community in some Muslim countries, and in some westernized countries at the hands of extremist Muslims. As I've mentioned on the show many times before, based on scripture in the Quran, there is this practice that has gone on for years that if they find out you're gay or otherwise part of the LGBT community, they will snatch you up, they will take you to the top of a skyscraper, and they will throw you off of it. And hear this, you'll have to check the video clip yourself out. He's very animated. There's no doubt, but that, when you hear of people talking about turning gay, okay, first of all, they don't understand what that's all about, because it's not a matter of turning gay. But the thing is that the main thrust of the issue is that in many Muslim countries, you can be killed for being gay. No one should ever be killed for their sexual orientation. And we've had more than one guest, several of them, that are former Muslims and are also part of the LGBT community. And there's been a couple interviews that were pretty intense, because they talked about what they had gone through coming out of Islam, being gay, and it's a group of people that we have to keep in mind when we talk about the atrocities that happen in some Muslim countries. John, did you have any comment?
First of all, I think the bottom line of any kind of tyranny is violence. We here might oppose an idea, but then it doesn't translate into the real life danger of actually violence, where you might have a different opinion, and that doesn't mean that you would have honor killings or yes, you might get censured, you might get beat up on Twitter and social media and all sorts of hate talk and speech, but for that to translate into actual physical violence, that only happens in those kind of societies that permeate that attitude. And why is that? Because I don't know, because we is it a more mature society? Is it a more mature democracy mindset? I don't know. I throw it up to you guys to kind of make a kind of an analysis on that. But I feel that bottom line, if you have a difference of opinion or idea or who you are as an LGBTQ or a race or anything, it doesn't translate to violence in certain parts of the world, and as much as it does in other parts.
Mark?
Let me unmute. Yeah, I totally agree with what was just said, and I want to remind everybody that there seems to be a push to get more and more countries to that level of violence. We can't forget that here in America, it wasn't that long ago that people were being killed for being gay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people were afraid to be gay or to be out in the open, to come out of the closet, and they had very good reason for that fear, because they were going to be absolutely ostracized within society, if not beaten or bludgeoned to death. There are countries pushing to a very severe stance on LGBTQ plus rights. You just look at what Putin's doing in Russia. And now you look at Uganda, who is actually has been trying for the last several years to pass legislation that would execute gay people, LGBTQ plus. So there is this push to take the world back into the extreme, and it's not going to just be your theocracies of the world, but a lot of other countries as well. And we've got to fight that push. We are in the midst of the biggest civil rights fight in the history of the world, and we have to win that civil rights fight. It's happening on the streets all over the world. It's been happening for a while. all of these things have been brimming under the surface. And as we was talking before the show started, it's conversations like these that really start those ripples and get those ripples rolling.
Well, and just recently on the show, we talked about a story about over in Poland, where the government is trying to make it mandatory that gay people go into, I think they're called deconversion camps or whatever that is, where they send a gay person, like they do it even here in this country. In Christianity, they'll send a gay person to some camp to get the gay out of them.
I can't. I think they were called Jesus camps. Yeah.
And over in Poland, trying to make it law. I mean, it's just insane. A couple quick things just to mention that I'll put in the video description. Brain not working. Is that we don't necessarily have to discuss. Our normal co-host Faye posted a tweet the other day about maybe I should have had more coffee this morning. What's it? Okay, knock or John. What's it called when everybody signs a piece of paper for some cause? It's
petition.
A petition. Jesus Christ, man. Pardon.
Yeah, was you up all night, John, talking to
No,
Smokey, or was that me?
Like you. Yeah, I wasn't up all night like you. I don't know what's going on with me. And there's a petition to be signed about the Islamic Republic of Iran. You can go check that out. And then also there's an interesting thread here that I found on Twitter the other day. A Muslim posted a thread called "Why Atheists Are Inherently Immoral," and you might want to go over and check that out, because there's really a lot of faulty logic in this thread that will be of interest to you. So let's get on to the interview. We are here to talk to John Varghese, and he has already stated, and he let me know up front before we invited him, that he never really went through any trials and tribulations, coming out of religion. And I'm going to just dispel his comment that he doesn't deserve to be here, because we've talked to many people that didn't necessarily have big problems leaving religion or had problems while they were religious. So thank you for being here, John.
Oh, I'm glad you guys have me. If I can support those ripples that Nakasushi was talking about, I'm all in.
Awesome. So John used to live in India, and what he told me is that he's a former Syrian Christian. What details on that religion, Syrian Christianity, how is that maybe different than the Christianity that we see here in Western Ireland?
Sure. Okay. Christianity 101. There's three basic, I think, segments within Christianity. So there's one which is the most popular, Catholicism, and Catholicism was initially part of one a Christian organization that began in that Rome, Antioch area, and that's called the Orthodox. And Orthodox is basically the straight way or something. That's the etymology of that word, Orthodox. So Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism were one at one point. Then the Pope or the Roman head kind of split away from individual bishops or patriarchs, as they're called, within the Orthodox segment. So you have the Coptic Orthodox, you have the Greek Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox. Those are the Orthodox churches which continue, as they say, the traditions of the original Christianity that began in Antioch, where supposedly the imagined person of Christ gave out his thing that, hey, go out and spread the word, kind of thing. So that's where Catholicism started, and because of the political support of the emperor at that time, that became the most widespread version of Christianity. But the Orthodox continued because they were diversified in all these different areas, more ethnic, geographical than this global, which Catholicism basically means all. So yeah, so and one of them is one of the Orthodox segments uh, is the Syrian, or the bishop or the patriarch based out of Damascus, Syria. Now, to go back to the original 101 about Christianity, so you have the Catholicism, you have Orthodox, and then within Catholicism, because people did not want to go after the Pope as the leader, they became the Protestants, which is now the most prevalent in the US. And within the Protestants are all the evangelical churches. I mean, the new evangelical mega churches, and you have the older traditional, the Baptist and the Anglicans and all those kind of Church of England, all those churches that are within the Protestant wing. So those are the three main categories. And now I think with all the idiots coming around with churches, mega churches of their own and having their own political clout, they are increasingly becoming a problem within our society. But anyways, all that said, Syrian Orthodoxy, which is what the church that I belonged to, or I was born into, had missionaries go out in, I think it was the 300s or the 400s BC. I mean, not BC, CE, Common Era, I think it's called, into the southern tip of India. I think along India, but they were received raw by a bunch of Hindu uh, uh, people, and they brought them into their fold, and then they preached, and they kind of they took root over there. The Portuguese later on came in, and this is like 400. So for the thousands of years, for almost like 1,000 years, they took hold and formed a whole community within the so-called upper caste. I don't know if you're aware of the caste system in India. So there's like different castes. You have the Brahmins, you have Kshatriyas, and you have the Shudras, which is the people who clean and all that stuff. So there's huge the menace of within that community. But then anyway, so the certain caste of people took on Syrian Orthodoxy, and then they've become they continued the tradition. The Portuguese came and tried to do some conversions of their own. This was backed militarily, so it kind of took, and that's where you have the Goa, which is slightly north of where Kerala, where Syrian Orthodoxy is. That it took over there, and there was like a little bit of clashes and battles and stuff like that between those three. So there's violent history there. But again, Syrian Orthodoxy took root, and now it's like I think about 3 million people in a community down south. But it's spread now. The diaspora it's across the globe. So me, I was in there. I was born in it. There was no, but at the same time, I was raised in. My parents migrated up north to a more Hindu majority community, and the beauty of Indian secularism is that in its truest sense, it was inclusive. So when the British left India in 1947, they had left behind a broken system where they tried to split Pakistan and Bangladesh as West and East Pakistan on the both sides of India, based on religious grounds. India, they said, you know what, we are not going to entertain that kind of an idea. We are a secular state, a republic secularism, which will not go after religious majority to form Islamist states like Pakistan and Bangladesh did. Well, Bangladesh was Pakistan, then they split up and became Bangladesh. But so India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he was the Prime Minister of India at the time when partition happened, we got our independence. It was an absolutely secular state where it's a freedom of and from religion for the state, which is beautiful, and that made that everybody felt involved. They could they're free to follow their own or follow none at all, but everybody is equal. Which was how I was raised. So, going back to the earlier point that I made, that there's no tyranny, there's no trials or tribulations for me to come out of that mindset, because I was born into it. I never faced anything wrong, or because we were a minority within an Indian community, I was never looked down upon, scorned upon. I was just in it with everything. In fact, for most of my Hindu friends, I was there within sitting in on their pujas. Puja is like a worship ceremony that you sit and you sit before a deity and kind of worship it. I was there ringing the bells and singing, chanting, and there's this. I don't know if you heard of the elephant god, the Ganesh.
Yes.
They do an annual dunking in the river. I don't know what traditional mythology it is, but every year you build these huge clay statues of Ganesh, and you put it on the back of a vehicle, a bullock cart or a truck or a tractor or whatever, and you have this fun trip from wherever it was installed for 10 days and worshipped. You take it to the nearest water body. It could be the sea, it could be the river or a lake, and you dunk it. I don't know what it is, but that's tradition.
It sounds like Christian baptism almost.
Well, in the reverse way, where the god is actually being immersed. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It was, for me, it was just the fun of getting together, chanting, and being in the middle of the friends, having lots of good stuff to eat, stuff like that. So and then the worst my parents did, listen to this, the worst my parents did was, hey, why were you so sitting on the back of the tractor so dangerously? That's their
That's what they took away from
that's the way they took away from it. So talking about indoctrination, it wasn't there. So it was a very lucid secular state. We were all going together to build India as a nation. In fact, my dad and mom both worked for the armed forces, which is, my dad worked for the military, my mom was in the Air Force, which meant that it was even more cosmopolitan, even more a wider range of people that came together within this community, and we never saw religion as a part of our makeup. It was just a lot of festivals, a lot of good stuff to eat, a lot of color, and as I grew up, a lot of drinking. But that's pretty much it. I mean, maybe it was weird because I was turning a blind eye to the real menace that it was perpetuating elsewhere in the world and elsewhere, and that's why I think all through my 40 years of my life, when I was actually in it, I never took. I was putting blinders on as I reviewed my religion. I was never religious. I never went or saw worship as anything other than getting together and having fun. But only when I was open to the ideas of how restrictive, how dangerous, and how supportive of relationship violence religion can be. That's when I thought, you know what, this isn't. I never was religious to begin with, even though I was so much within that community which supports, because it was more a cultural immersion than an indoctrination. I hope you can see that difference. In Hinduism, you automatically bend and touch an elder's feet to take his or her blessings, right? It's a natural thing you do. I did it. It's so natural thing to do. But or to say Ram Ram, Ram is the god, Hindu god, the biggest Hindu god. So when you meet somebody, you say, hi, Ram Ram. It's like a greeting, but it's so part of tradition and culture that you do not separate it, and it's a very kind thing that you perceive it in your head. So you do not associate. You're almost blind to the wrongness and the deep menace that's attached, or the baggage that comes along with it. So maybe that's why my transition out of it was when I saw that ugly side of religion, and I think that's my conversion. If you ask me how I could carry on for 40 years without having seen that side of religion. Maybe I was just blind and seeing only the good that I wanted to see.
Well, and what I'll say is that don't feel too bad about it. I went over 50 years with those blinders on, not being aware of the atrocities, happening across the world. And as we were talking about, prior to the stream, the big reason why people are being made aware of things like that now is how much smaller the globe is getting with the advent of social media. Back when I was coming up as a kid, you had 3 TV channels on your TV, and that's where you got everything from. Now I have associates and friends all over the world that I can contact on the drop of a hat. And that's why this show exists, because I met ex-Muslims online, and I started to be educated by them as to what happens to people, and I was just so appalled, like, wait a minute, why aren't all the media outlets in the westernized countries screaming at the top of their lungs about stuff like this? Or like Knock had said before, why isn't our government denouncing these countries? So I very much relate to what you're saying. So what age were you when your family left India?
Oh, my family didn't. So I was I think 24, 25 when I decided to immigrate to Canada. It was just a personal decision. Well, I was a black sheep in the family. My older brother, he's an MBA marketing, placed beautifully. My younger sister, MBA, whatever. I grew up making films. I was a something that my parents didn't really kind of dig. What's this, making films, documentaries? That's not that, or writing. I wanted to do, I was a journalist, so I wrote, and they didn't really consider that as a great thing within the society. So I kind of, and it wasn't a oppression, it was just something that they kind of gave a narrow eye to. But so I thought, you know what, I'm going to make my own uh, place in this world. So I applied and I got immigrated. I came in as I think 1999, 2000 is when I arrived in Canada. So I've been here. But even in fact, my religious exposure increased when I got here. Do you understand how weird it is? You come from India, which is pretty open. The beauty of Hinduism is that it's so amazing. You could be an atheist, you could be an agnostic, you could be a monist, a totally theist within Hinduism. And that's the broad nature of it being more a philosophy uh, of mindsets that can come together. So it was very secure. It's thousands and thousands of years old, so it's very secure. Only now do you see these weirdos who are making a lot of noise about Hindutva and more a nationalistic fight against a response against our neighbors, which is Pakistan, which is more a political thing than anything. But Hinduism basically is a very inclusive, very inherently kind and gentle state of being. So I was very secure in my behavior with my friends, whether they're Hindus or Muslims within that community. You come out of there, and then what happens is, because of how I am by my pigment, I kind of associate automatically to that I get attracted to a cultural setting within here, right, in Canada. So what happens is, I was way more in an open community there, and then I come into and I become part of an insular community here. So that's the dichotomy. I don't know if you understand, but that's what happens. In a land of strangers, you get attracted to people who are more like you. So that becomes insular, rather than in your world, in your place or country, you are among a wide set of people and who don't consider religion. So, and I became more religious or more exposed to religious ideas here, and that got me more than I was got by religion over there.
And so when you first moved to Canada, you had not yet become an atheist, right?
No. As I said, I was 24, so it took me like 16, 17 years of, and that's when I start hearing about all the strange violence that's happening, and that opened me up to the world of irrational behavior, which stems from not being open to new ideas. For me, I'm a science freak. I love anything that makes sense, and I always sought after understanding of, or going down to the basics of anything, right? So, and that's why before the show, I was talking to you, John, about how um, it's all our worldviews are based fundamentally on self-preservation. Even altruism is based on something that is beneficial to you, that meme inside us, the mimetic continuation that Dawkins talks about, is it supports protection of that mean and continuation down the line in a genetic evolution. So natural selection supports kind, gentle, loving behavior among ourselves. It is a natural way so that you can, within a group dynamics, you can come out on top. So you get all the procreational benefits, and you come out alive. So that again supports procreation, which is carrying down your genes. So it is that kind of close-minded, the openness that you see from this kind of a worldview that supported my escape from religion, because I was more into science and a reductionist to the point of understanding our mimetic purpose in this world. So because you reduce everything, you then see religion for what it is: a bunch of nonsense, uh, 2,000, 3,000 year old doctrine that somehow continues to support a small segment of the population, who then imposes it through through just lack of knowledge, ignorance, lack of education, and in some cases by force and violence.
Well, and I've often said that the advent of religion stemmed out of man's ignorance and fear, and that
Yeah.
yeah, and that I've often said tongue in cheek that God is not a being. God is an acronym that stands for getting over dying. Um, Most humans, whether they overtly realize it or not, have an innate sense of fear of death, because we're aware, unlike other animals, we are aware of our mortality. And and of course, back at the dawn of humanity, there were so many things that we didn't know about the world around us, and we wanted to come up with an explanation for it. Well, I don't understand this. It must be some being in the sky. I don't want to die and wilt away like that bush over there that dies and wilts away and goes away forever, or that animal that dies and goes away. I must be more important than that. You know what? There's a life after life. So that's kind of where it came out of, and it's it's just unfortunate that you would think that we would have already, with all the other advances that as a species we've undertaken and brought about, you would think we would have gotten away from that mindset in a bigger way than we have thus far. So one thing I took away from what you were just saying is I kind of did a little bit of the math in my head with the dates you gave. So you haven't been an atheist for that long then. How long have you been an atheist?
No, this would be, I think, my third or fourth year. And even then, I don't know. Personally, I would count myself an atheist all my life.
Yeah. What you described sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then because I never associated religion as anything. It's a. Have we been wearing clothes all our lives? Yes. So I consider that something as wearing clothes. It's just something that you do to live in society and not look naked in front of everybody else. So but do you think that cloth has supernatural power and it protects you and all that kind of stuff? No. So technically, I've been an atheist for 3 or 4 years in the past, since I really let go of that mindset. But I've been following the policy of kindness, being part of this, understanding this, seeing the true nature of who we are and what we are, and understanding that there's no purpose handed down from above. It is a purpose that we give ourselves to make the best of this world. That is more valuable than anything that is supernaturally imposed on you. I've been that all my life.
Well,
So
and
yeah, for 3 4 years to
I
answer
mean,
you.
and I always get so tired of religious people that throw this indictment out to atheists that there's no meaning or purpose in their life because they don't believe in God. It's like, well, yeah, there's meaning and purpose in my life. It's what I take on myself as my meaning and purpose.
Exactly.
Um, and the other thing is that it always kind of, I don't know, makes me chuckle or raise an eyebrow when a religious person escapes some tragedy that involved a huge chunk of humanity and says, "Oh, by the grace of God," and
What about
God
the
saved
people
me.
who?
And like I remember, I think it was like 15 years ago. Over in the ocean there by India, there was a big tsunami that
Oh yeah,
occurred.
yeah,
It killed, I think, it killed millions of people.
yeah, yeah.
And there was a talk show host here in America. I don't know if you're aware of the show that I think it's still ongoing. It's called The View, where some ladies get around and talk about issues of the day. And there was one host named Star Jones, and they were talking about the tsunami that occurred. And she said, "You know what? I was scheduled to go over there, and then it got canceled at the last minute. Thank my God for having saved me." And I said, well, on social media, I said, wait a minute, she's thanking God for saving her. Yeah, that's right, Star. God intervened and saved you. To hell with those other millions of people that died.
And that goes back to what you say is you associate uh, things that you don't understand with something supernatural. So, like you said, the fear of dying, because you don't understand it, you kind of want to give it a shape or a structure that somebody somebody will teach you, hey, this is how it is. So as soon as somebody says this is how it is, it's knowledge, and knowledge is way better than lack of knowledge on a genetic scope. So if you know that there's a tiger that has gone into a cave, or three tigers went in and two came out, it is the knowledge that there's one still there, and that mathematics that will save your life. So knowledge genetically is way more powerful than lack of knowledge, and people cling on to anybody who comes and shares knowledge. Whether the knowledge is right or wrong is entirely different. And even I feel people to 2,000 years ago, whenever dogma or doctrine came along, I sometimes feel that it was meant well, because we needed that knowledge, or the ability to live together as a community. We needed those kind of structures at that time. We are now mature. We don't need those crutches uh, uh, to walk our lives now. And it is this clinging, this insecure clinging that religious people do to that age old, irrelevant, outdated doctrine that really.
Well, I mean, and the thing is too, if we had shed those crutches already long ago, we would probably be further ahead as a society, because, when you're of the mindset that I go on living after I die, and that this life is just a test or whatever, like a lot of religious people think, then what you're doing is you're not really living, in my mind. I'm not saying everybody that has that mindset doesn't live, but like I think of all these human minds that are out there, that because they're so entrenched in their religious belief, that if they were aware that this was the only life they had, that they might be making bigger contributions to society and to science and all that. Like I talk about, not really on this topic, but I remember, hearing at different times, like over by India in the ocean there's like the island where there's, a primitive, tribal culture, and like a Christian had gone there to try and proselytize to them, and they ended up killing them because they didn't understand it. They had never, been subject to that, mindset or those ideas. And I've heard before, like in different, things on, National Geographic or, stuff like that, like some scientists will say, yes, we must preserve this ancient culture, like let them, and I always have said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to take them cases of toilet paper and computers and bring them into the modern world, because in that primitive village, there might be a human mind that will come up with the cure for cancer, or, come up with the cure for global warming, because we never know what the potential of a human mind will be until they are brought up to speed on everything everybody else knows. And then if you strip away the religious belief, then this life becomes more important to you, and you want to contribute to this life. You want to make this world a better place and leave something behind, for your fellow humans.
And to that point, John, I make as a person, I make a short-term goal and a long-term goal, and my long-term goal is precisely what you just spoke about, which is take away, bring into a humanist, rationalist position the many hours wasted in worship and this nonsensical, every day going for spending like hours in church and praying and religious ceremonies and all that, and bring that resource, that human resource that could be utilized to make a better world. That's and that's one of my long-term goals as a person. If people say that people who do not have religion do not have purposes, but this is it. That's my purpose in my life. I make short-term goals. One of the things that I wanted to do was be part of a community of rational thinkers, and that's why I got involved with the Center for Inquiry Canada. And in fact, I'm just a baby in the organization. I just joined the communications department, and it's been awesome. I get to talk to these amazing people who think like me, ideas of rationalism, secularism. This is what is my short-term goal, in the sense, be part of something that is making a better world. Atheism per se is like a nothingness. Like it's if people do not believe in God, atheists did not need to exist. It's like we do not believe in a teapot in the sky, so there are no ateapotists out there. So similarly, atheism per se is a nothingness. What is truly there is organizations or people that support rational, kind behavior within a community that advances our condition, the human condition, whether it is through technology, whether it is through science, or whether it is letting people be who they are by having a mindset that says, okay, that's also a way of living. So that's my, those are the two things that I wanted to say about what you just said about having goals.
And I have one final question about your deconversion, and then I'd like to go on to talk at length about the organization you belong to, the Center for Inquiry Canada. But first, I want to recognize the chat. Godless Granny was the first one in the house. Hello, Godless Granny. Godless Boy was someone that got here early on. Wooly Ignorant, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Rational Canadian Atheist, as I mentioned, he's going to be our first guest in October, a lifelong non-believer. Cameron, welcome. Hi, Harry is here, real big friend of the channel. Nathan Artwork, welcome, Nathan. And Iron Charioteer in the house, another very big fan of Knox and the channel. Ivan Vane Veen, that's a new one on me. Welcome, Ivan. Hopefully I'll get to know who the heck you are in the future. Maynard Saves, my campaign manager, is here. Hunter Bailey, American Madhouse. Oh, who else is here today? Streamlabs is here always, leaving the crazy messages that Knock has there. And gosh sakes, we've got Altangelo Grasso in the house, who is always here to decry atheism and take shots at us. It's welcome, Altangelo. We still got to get you in here for a conversation someday. And let's see, I think that's everybody. If I missed anybody, please forgive me. We love all of you, and thank you so much for being here. And I would ask Sacta Calzone and James Hogue as well. We would ask that you share this video with folks. Share this channel with people on social media. We want more people to hear these stories, not just stories from folks like John here, but as we've mentioned in this broadcast, we want to make more of humanity aware of the atrocities that occurred. That, like, when I discovered what was going on in Muslim countries, I mean, it was like one of those scenes from a movie where everything starts spinning and you're like, what? Like, how could that be happening? Like, it's just insane. And but at any rate, to get back to John, the question I had for you is, so when you became an atheist, can you look back, and was it just like one moment of epiphany, or was it like just something that gradually happened to you, or did you just one day it just clicked in your head, you know what, I can't be a part of this anymore?
So you're right. There's it's a shade of gray from black to white, right through. I can't in that spectrum. It's just black and white. There's this whole shade in the middle that I cannot pinpoint. I think I began, I think in about 10 years ago, I read a book called The Pagan Christ, Tom Harper. I don't know if you've heard of that author. And he was talking about how the Christ idea existed way before what Christianity initially started off at, and at that timeline, whether it is Horus in Egypt, it is Krishna in the Hindu mythology. So that idea of an incarnation of the divine to help mankind has always been a motif that the power people in a community used, and that is, I think, in a way useful, because it elevates, it diminishes the animal parts of your brain, the base lizard brain part of your ideas, where you would rather survive by yourself without thinking of others as part of your survival. And it elevates it to something that is, hey, if you include everybody within your mindset, you have a better chance of surviving, and your genes can continue living. So it was that idea that was introduced by these so-called gatekeepers of God, or the idea of God. So I think Tom Harper was my first point of reference that I can have in my head, that I can bring about that hey, this is not, Christ is not a real thing. It is a mythological thing. It might be more truer than the real thing, because it actually speaks to what is inherently within you. That idea is true, but the history is not. History is convoluted. History is disguised. It's manipulated. It is not right, but the essence is right. So that was like maybe about 10, 11 years ago. And then you get exposed to the bad side of, I get exposed to the bad side of religion through the suicide bombings, which the insecure Islamists are going through, the same way our crusades back in centuries ago went through to kill others, kill innocents so that they can get converted. The same thing's happening now within the Islamic. So you see that the atrocities. You hear about people, students being killed, lynched in this day and age in Pakistan, where because they spoke about, they questioned the idea of Islam or Muhammad or the Prophet, and you see that, in a context where violent people are going in among innocent, unarmed civilians and causing terror. And I saw this terrorism happen all across the globe. Basically, it started off in I think within uh, uh, areas like, for example, Punjab. It was more sectarian or secessionist, because Punjab wanted its own place in India. It started off over there, but then you see this global rise of violence because it stood for a religion. So once I see all the the evil, larger fundamentalist side of religion, I right away step back. And I think this happened 3 or 4 years ago, and I totally detached myself from my religion. But now I have to say that my wife is absolutely a believer, not a believer. Well, I would say a believer. She doesn't support my atheism or humanist attitude towards the world, which is inclusive of everybody. She says that she still believes that Christianity is the way to go, and my kids have to kind of see that struggle happen between the two of us. From my perspective, the balance that we've struck on this is that we both do not indoctrinate. We let them be. We let them make their own decisions. My oldest is 16. She's getting to a stage where she's understanding it, and right away, as soon as people find that understanding of the truth, they they step back. And then I can already see her. You know, she loves her mom. She respects her a lot, but she will never be able to take what she's saying as a mandate or scripture or doctrine. And she only laughs at it. Which is the natural state. I never imposed my thoughts on her. I kind of kept it to myself. So we both agreed we will not discuss that topic. She continues living her life. I continue living my life. My kids are left alone to. In fact, they are more exposed to her ideas than mine. And I said, you know what? That's totally fine. As long as you're scientific in your approach, if you're rational, if you're kind to in your attitudes, you will see the idiocy of this whole supernatural God idea. So they're fine. So
Well,
yeah.
and I know very many couples, as you describe it, where one person is an atheist and the other partner is a believer, and many of those situations involve the ideas you're talking about, where the parents decide, look, they will be exposed to both of our ideas. We're not going to push them in one direction or another. Let them come to their own conclusions. And I think that is a great lesson, because it's almost, to me, I think it's almost a disservice to push any kind of religious ideology on children before their minds are formed. Like you said, your 16-year-old is now starting to ponder all this and coming to her own conclusions. I almost think that before, and I'm not saying you don't take your kids to church and all that, let them absorb it, naturally. But like, to push the ideas on them, it's kind of unfair, because you're talking to a mind that isn't formed yet.
And I would say the moderates over here are doing a disservice, John, because the moderates, what they do is they pick and choose within doctrine, right? They pick and choose. They say, oh, the Jehovah didn't, that was that time, and now Jesus came, and Jesus is more mild and show your other cheek, while the other one is a jealous God and all that stuff. And so the moderates pick and choose. At least the fundamentalists are honest, right? They want to impose the old ways, and we can talk to them and have a conversation and be at opposing points. But these moderates, what they do is they put this buffer on top of which the fundamentalists can stand on, right? So, and there is no dialogue that we can make, because of all these people who pick and choose within Holy Writ, what is the good, and use that to support religious ideas. I find them dishonest, and I cannot talk to somebody who's like that, because they are just dishonest when they talk, pick and choose, and then they do not, and they claim themselves to be Christians or Muslims. But I'm a moderate. I pick and choose. My God. So now, of course, your morality and your worldview comes from within you. Why do you need that Holy Writ at all? And that's why I still feel some kind of um, a need to correct myself, because she is one of those people who picks and chooses. And the more I try to convince her that, hey, why don't you follow your religion to the word? Why are you picking and choosing? And if you're picking and choosing, that comes from within you. Then, but then she kind of turns that, puts her blinders on. And that's what every religious person who considered themselves to be moderates to do that.
Well, and it's so funny. I mean, not exactly, word for word, but so much of what you said today are ideas that are in my mind as well. I mean, there's so many Christians out there that take the Bible a la carte, as you said,
Yeah.
picking and choosing what they want to believe in. And it's just unfortunate. I mean, it's fortunate that they do that in my mind, because if every 2.2 or 2.3 billion Christians in the world, if every one of them was a biblical literalist, the world would be a hellscape 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
And John, and that will bring us in stark. These people then face the stark reality of how stupid their worldview is right away. They do not, because it's been covered. And to your point, just as Penn Jillette said, I go about raping and killing every person that I want, even though, because I'm an atheist, and that number is zero. Right?
Yeah,
So,
I love that quote.
And that's exactly what it is. When these people are not smothered by these moderates, they will see that they do not want to go about killing and hurting other, but that at the same time shed what they claim to be religiosity. It is only because so many people pick and choose that they get a place to stand on. Just like a scientist said, it's only by standing on the backs of giants that we can see this further to advance science. Similarly, these fundamentalists are standing on the backs of these moderates to further their cause, and it is their voice that is heard everywhere, because they are the loudest, but they're loudest only because they're standing on the backs of these idiots who do not see truth for truth. If everybody becomes fundamentalist, John, I disagree with you. If everybody becomes fundamentalist, they will be exposed to the the idiocy of their position, and they will see that they do not want to bring violence into the world because of what they believe in. But that's just my take on it. I'm
Well,
sure.
no, and I never looked at it from that perspective. Is that if they adopted, started to take these ideas seriously, the more fundamentalist ideas, because of their humanity, they would realize that, oh my God, yeah, this is not the way to go. Well, and no, what I was going to say is, but just to put a pin in the point that I started out with, is that, like, I feel lucky the way it is, because the fact that most Christians, in my mind, they aren't, as they claim, getting their morality from the Bible. Their morality is based on secular values. They just don't admit it. They just don't realize it. Because I already said it. The world would be a very scary place. But I see your point too, that maybe it might be a little scarier place for a moment, but that the humanity would prevail, and they would say, "Wait a minute, these ideas are wrong." And the other thing is, I'm just always amazed at, like the Christians that take their Bible a la carte, and then they want to justify it with points like, well, the reason God in the Old Testament acted in that way is because it was a different time, a different culture. And I always respond to them, well, wait a minute. So you're saying that this omnipotent being that you worship, he needed to be concerned with the cultural standards of his creations? I mean, that's nonsense.
That is so true. Exactly. So it's more the secular values that form mindset, whether you're religious or non-religious. It is the zeitgeist that is, like Naksushi was saying, it's the ripples that we create right now, and they have to form waves and get down and shake these moderates out from their comfort zone of the a la carte Christianity, and bring them to understand, like you said, that it comes from within your humanist brain, and not because it has been imposed. Because if it was imposed, you'd be going around killing somebody who's not, who, I don't know, somebody who hasn't taken a bath on a certain day. I don't know, any ridiculous thing that Leviticus or Deuteronomy or one of those earlier Bronze Age books recommends.
Well, and the moderate Christians that you speak of, they often, eschew the ideas you're talking about by employing a no true Scotsman fallacy. You point out, or in every religion, even in Islam, you point out the extremists, and they want to say, well, no, they're not truly Islam. My version of Islam is right. My version of Christianity is right, and it's that's also nonsense, because no, this sect is part of your ideology, and look at the horrors they're perpetrating. You are providing cover for them, because you are saying that the overall idea of Islam or Christianity is a good thing, and I belong to it. But then you have this sect that is, just crazy people, and you are giving them cover whether you agree with them or not, because you are part of the overall organization. So the way they get that out of their mind and get the idea that they have any responsibility in that out of their mind is they employ that no true Scotsman fallacy. And well, no, they're not truly of my religion.
Agree. And statistics and data suggests exactly that there's a whole bunch of people that are nuns or non-religiously affiliated who would otherwise have lived their lives creating solutions to the modern problems that we face, but are now worried about what the fundamentalist violent people will do to them if they let go of the ideas that make them who they are. So it is this fear, like you said earlier, which is seriously bad for our society right now.
And I just still can't get away from the idea that there's how much further ahead we might be as a people, that because there's so many, like right now, I know there's millions of minds out there that are living in, areas that don't have light, that, areas where ideas are kept from them, that they might solve some of the biggest problems of our times. Were they brought up to speed? Were they allowed to learn different things? I mean, you look at like China and the control they have on like the internet and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, it almost doesn't make sense to me, because of how fortunate I was to, be born where I was and grow up in this type of thing. And people need to realize that in your little insular world that you've, been in, like you said earlier, with your blinders on, there's a lot of things going on in the world that people need to hear about. And to me, the biggest thing in my mind is to bring them all up to, for lack of a better term, the education level, that everybody else is at. And I'm not saying that there's people out there that are uneducated because they choose to be uneducated and they're not inquisitive, but that they live in a oppressed society and information is kept from them. And yeah, I'm pontificating. So look, I want to end the show with not necessarily, continue to ask you a series of questions. I just want to throw it over to you and let you take the end of the show here to talk about the Center for Inquiry Canada and tell us what that's all about and your involvement with it and like that.
Yeah, like I said, when I saw that not believing in God is not much of a position to be in for a long time. Like, of course, you go through a place where you don't have supernatural uh, belief systems anymore. But after a while, it gets to be a nothing. Whereas there is no community, there was no nothing that I could bring about change through, because religion had hijacked all that through how it assigns itself as a charity, and collects all these tax benefits in society, and then there are all these Christian charities and all that stuff. So my idea, after a while of being a proud atheist in a way, I found that to be a non-position, in a way. I don't know if you can get the drift of what I'm trying to say. So I had to find something that made sense for me to be part of, something that supports, whether it is religious, whether it is non-religious, the ideas of humanism, or the ability for us to come together to make this world a better place.
Just real quick, let me interject here, because what you just said over the last minute or so is so beautiful. Because those of us that are in the atheist community and are coming in contact with religious people all the time for discourse, and we always get this idea from those people that, well, your worldview, atheism, and we always try and say, well, no, atheism is a position on one question.
That's it.
Do gods exist? So I can see why that transition helped you. When you were early on an atheist, it was new and it was,
liberating. It was so, yeah.
Yeah, you felt like, wow, I finally, cleared the clouds, and then so you transitioned to the CFIC because you actually needed a worldview, a mindset that lots of religious people try and say that atheism is, which it isn't. There's atheists of all stripes. There's atheists that out there that I would never sanction their behavior. So, but continue, please.
Yeah. So exactly to your point is you need to place yourself on a platform of mutual benefit. And I felt that CFIC, which is the Center for Inquiry Canada, which I think is an offshoot of CFI US, and because it was geographically close, I joined CFIC, which is based on primarily on humanism, which is uh, it supports the rights and freedom of an individual as it relates to within our society. And what supports that is rational behaviors, the ability to have social justice, to support human rights. There's and within and human rights while we are a diverse community, and all this while you're being involved in the society as an active citizen. I mean, and all this was what CFIC supported. It's based on reason, science, freedom of asking questions, and basically being a human being. And it is amazing. I'm in the communications team. So what we do is, you know what? That's a bit of a misnomer. So when I joined, I told them I had taken a sabbatical from social media, and I told this to you, John, that I do not subscribe to any news. I don't watch TV. I do not engage in any kind of. I'm not on any channel or social media, Facebook, Twitter. I don't know. Even though I was at one point, I'm aware of what they do and what they are, but I felt that it was the algorithms that support that those platforms are feeding you things that you don't need in your life, and I didn't need in my life. So I kind of stepped out of it to form my own uh, view of this world, so that I could see it the way I wanted. At the same time, be able to pick and choose what I need to focus on or focus my energies on. So, and that's why, even though they put when I asked to volunteer for CFIC, they said, okay, you know what, you will come over to the communications team, and the communications team basically handles Twitter and social media feeds and stuff like that. So I find myself out of place. But what I do is I write articles for their critical links, which is a weekly, or sorry, not a newsletter that goes out monthly, and I form part of that team. We are looking to involve the millennials and Gen Z in rational thinking. I see my kids growing up, and I see them wanting to participate in this world, become citizens of their own, and find their footing in this world. So I felt that if they can participate in this, what a beautiful thing it would be if they spread the word of rationalism and humanism within their communities, and not just that they're watching reruns of The Office all the time, but get involved and participate in these kind of things that build our community and our society. So I thought I recommended that we bring in the Gen Z and the millennials. So we're working on that project right now. So these are the things that I in my short. I haven't been with CFIC for long. I just joined them this year, earlier this year, and it's been a fantastic thing that I did, because it gives me purpose, and a platform to kind of do the same things that I used to do earlier while I was religious. We went out and helped out in soup kitchens and all that, which was in that time under the guise of Christian charity, but it was basically charity. And I could bring that at a much elevated level and increase the level of, or decrease the level of human suffering within my community and around the globe.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that there's the organizations that is here in the U.S. I will make sure and link in the video description the link to the CFIC's Twitter and the CFIC's website, and then look for the USA iteration of that, and leave those links in the video description as well. I want to call Knock back in if he's still listening to us. I know Knock so well that while he was listening throughout that whole interview, he was nodding his head a lot. And so, Knock, I just want to see what your thoughts are on the conversation.
Oh yeah. It was a great conversation. I was getting house stuff done and interacting a little bit in the chat, but I thought it was a great conversation. And yeah, I mean, I was in agreement through pretty much all of it. I think that organizations like that are fundamental. We were just talking with Randolph Richardson about this recently, and he's involved in an organization up in Canada as well. And we need more of that here in the States, and we do have it. The Atheist Experience does great work down in Austin, Texas, and there's so many more. And you do see like Christians try to attack these organizations in various different ways, but community is so important, and we as atheists need that as well. I often talk about how I was completely alone in this world, shunned by my family, until I found this internet community, as crazy as it is. So we all need that. And I think we need more institutions like that popping up all over the States here to really combat this fundamentalism that's trying to take over.
Just to dovetail on what Knock just said, and I'm sure he would agree with me, we would love to have you on again as part of a video or a stream, just in the channel or not necessarily as a Apostate Alliance guest, because we talk about a lot of the issues that you brought up today as far as from humanism. And I know Knock would like to talk to you and have a stream on his own with you.
Yeah.
I'm a big secular humanist myself, and that is my worldview as well. And I think it is the worldview that should be promoted. Because I think it's the only thing that's going to bring the world together, because we have world issues and we need to stop looking at borders and cultures. And I'm not saying none of that's not important, but we need to start seeing it, all of us as human beings and working together to combat these really, really serious
and I'm
issues
so
we're facing
appreciative
as a
of the
world.
work that you do, because you are, like you said, Naksushi, you really are in the middle of creating those ripples that will become the waves that will change the world. So whether it is secularism, whether it is scientific skepticism, whether it is critical thinking, and basically building a community, what you're doing is exactly what we need more and more of. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And John,
Well,
you too.
thank
And
you. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, so we're going to definitely reach out to you and ask you on the channel again. And I'm looking forward to meeting other members of your organization. We have I'd said it before, Onur from the organization. Yeah, is going to be here on the 25th of October. As I said, RCA, Rational Canadian Atheist, who's been in the live chat, he's our first guest on the 4th of October. And he is a lifelong non-believer. So we're going to take a little departure from our normal format. Harris Sultan, that will be a pre-recorded interview that will play at our normal time, 11 a.m. Eastern, on the 11th of October. Onur is the 18th. And Little Devil, Sophia, will be here on the 25th. I also want to mention again here at the end that please come and join us on Wednesday nights. There's really not a set time. I know Knock had said he kind of wants to maybe start it around 6 o'clock every Wednesday, but that might change from week to week depending on what's going on in Nakasuchi's life. Yeah, Knock.
Yes, or I was gonna say just 6 or 7 every Wednesday, just depending on when I get dinner finished. So, my fatherly chores are done for the night, and I
we
can sit
want
down
to
and have a
encourage
conversation.
Christians to come to those open rooms and challenge the atheists, and have some dialogues. Be looking for that every Wednesday night. And again, I'm going to be on Kevin Chaos's channel on the 3rd of October. And I will tweet out about that when we get closer to it. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank John. He was one of my easiest guests to interview. I just asked him a question, and then he gave some very detailed information on everything. I didn't have to pull anything out of him, so that's always great when a guest is like that. And just remember, folks, the Apostate Alliance. Please share it with everybody. This is where you can be free to not believe. And join us next Sunday, please.